It's alive! Well, hello everybody, this is meteorologist Andrew Pinero with this next Full Throttle Thursday. Now this topic is actually going to be a topic I've never talked about on this channel before. Batteries. Yes, every car, whether it's electric or not, diesel, has a battery. Battery starts the car. It provides the power needed that the starter uses to turn the car over. This topic came up recently because my battery was starting to go. I had my headlights on, just like right now. I have the headlights on. Only maybe about 10-15 minutes with the engine off, and that was enough to drain the battery. And I couldn't start the car. So I'm replicating that situation right now, and I'm going to show it for you guys. And then I'm going to show you the new battery. So it's been about that 10-15 minutes. The voltage on the battery right now says 10.88, which is pretty low. So I'm going to start the car and see if it actually turns over this time. Alright, well, we just saw it. After sitting for about 15 minutes with the headlights on but the engine off, it didn't even turn over. It didn't even sound like the starter was able to turn the crank at all. It just stalled and we heard that click, 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 click sound. So that means the battery's gone. I tested the alternator, so I have a little voltage tester, so I'm able to connect that to the positive and negative terminal of the battery and the alternator. The alternator's fine. Alternator voltage should be running at about 14.2 volts. The car battery gets that, so when the engine's on, you'll read 14 or 14.2 volts at the battery terminals. When the engine's off, it should be around 12. So when I started the car now, it was at 10.8 volts. So quite a bit under. And that was only after about 15 minutes. I had a timer going. I set it for 15 minutes of leaving the headlights on with the engine off. That should not drain a battery. That means the battery's failing. So we're going to replace the battery. Come along for the ride as I replace the battery today. Alright, so we're inside the car again now with the battery. So a couple things. This one is dirty. So this is going to be not really necessarily to clean it. But if it was, there's rust on it, you want to make sure that's clean. So the first thing we want to do for this is not necessarily remove the clamp. We want to remove the negative terminal. So we got the negative terminal here, the positive terminal here. So this is where the first thing I'm going to do is remove this negative terminal. There's a little nut on each of these terminals, here and here. I'm going to remove that now. Alright, so now the goal here is not to completely remove the nut. It's enough to loosen it so this terminal can be pulled free, just like that. So now that this is free, You can remove the other side. You want to make sure these don't come back in contact with the terminals themselves. Alright, now this one is loosened up. Give it a little twist and a pull. And I'm going to pull this off to the side there. There we go. That's holding it aside. This one's held aside enough there. So now the terminals are free. The car is completely off now. And now we can remove these brackets right here. So this has what looks like a plastic nut holding the negative terminal in place. The negative battery terminal comes right out here. Now that we have both the battery terminals removed, we can remove these two bolts holding the battery in place. Alright, so here, this is held in place by a little loop that's at the bottom down here that will lock it in place. So this can be removed. Now we'll remove the back bolt. Alright, so now the bracket comes right out, leaving the battery loose. Alright, now it's a good idea to have some gloves on, some safety glasses. And we're going to pull this battery right out just because there could be some sharp edges right around there. And don't worry, I can touch the two terminals. It's not going to be dangerous. Even with these rubber gloves off, if a human touches those terminals, it's totally fine. Okay. Now that the battery's out, it's a good idea to always check inside here to make sure it's all clean. I'm going to wipe it down a little bit. Alright, so I'm outside now. I got the old battery pulled, and I have the new battery sitting right here. Now, a couple things you may notice between these. I don't know how well you can see it. It's at the very bottom there. We have a couple levels that are on here, and we don't on the new one. So the battery that came with the car is called a flooded battery, versus this one, it says it right here, AGM. So flooded battery means there's liquid inside here. If I pick it up, which it is kind of heavy, they're sloshing around right here. The new battery, it's solid. There is no sloshing around. The difference in that is this needs distilled water. And there's 6 little twist caps on top of here. This is to fill each of the 6 cells inside of this battery with distilled water. So the level is not really low, and water does evaporate over time, so this distilled water does start to evaporate. And when that happens, then the battery does weaken. So it's not really low right now. So that was my first thing I was looking at when the car wouldn't start. I was looking to see if the battery needed to be filled, because these are not maintenance free. This does need maintenance. It needs to fill each of those 6 cells with distilled water. So, the new one, there's no opening on the top. It's completely flat. That's because this is a maintenance-free type of a battery. This one is called AGM, absorbent glass material. So that's like a fiberglass type of material that's inside there. So the liquid that's loose in the flooded type of battery is absorbed by the glass material, AGM, in this type of a battery. So that's why this one's a little bit more durable. It can also hold a little bit more charge, so this one will give more cranking amps. So this doesn't actually say what the cranking amps are on the battery, but the new one does. And this is from Duralast. I just went to AutoZone, I picked it up. This says 650 cold cranking amps and 800 cranking amps with a reserve capacity of 100 and 55 amp hours. So a couple things I'm going to do. There is this protective shield that's on this battery, the old battery. Actually, it says Panasonic. I didn't know Panasonic made car batteries. essentially now I'm going to take this, slide it on top of the new one. If it fits, we'll see if it fits. Looks like it's going. There we go. So that's set. And then the last thing, there's a tray at the bottom here. I'm not going to touch the tray just yet until I put my gloves back on, because it was wet at the bottom. I don't know if that's just because it rained yesterday, or if this battery's leaking. I'll find out in a second, and we'll see a little bit of a close-up shot of that. So I'm going to cut to that right now. Okay, so here, I took the shield, the little protective cover off both of these. So we're going to compare. This is the flooded battery. This is the stock battery, Panasonic, that was put in the Subaru. So we have upper level, lower level. The fluid level is very close to the top, so it's pretty good. And these little slits that you see here, those are the 6 cells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And even if I shake the battery a little bit, you can see the fluid level. So like this cell is a little bit lower than the others, so you can check the fluid level that way. But what I'm doing now with this battery, essentially changing an upgrade, AGM. This is a solid battery. It's sealed, so it's maintenance free. So there's no filling, there's no seeing of the cells. There's still 6 cells inside of there to give it the power it needs. But there is no fluid floating around because of the AGM, absorbent glass material. The fluid that's inside this one is absorbed into this fiberglass-like material inside that battery. So that's why this is more durable, because if this one you have to put vertically, and if it gets sloshed around like that, that can throw off the chemical balance. This one, all solid, so you don't have to worry about that. So now with this one, we're going to throw that little sleeve back on, that protective cover. So these are set. The last thing is going to be this tray at the bottom. That is wet, so I'm going to put gloves on just in case there's some acid. The water that's in here mixes with chemicals inside there for lead. There's lead plates inside of each of these. So there could be lead acid in the tray. So we're going to be careful with that. Okay, so let's pull this out. These things are quite heavy. This is the tray. This goes back in. But there's moisture inside of here. So I'm going to clean that out before I put the new battery in that tray. Okay, so now that we got the new battery in there, it's time to secure it down with the brackets. Leave a little bit of room on this bracket now so I can get the other post back in place there. I usually like to hand tighten first, and then I'll get the wrench and tighten that down a little bit better. But now, this little handle that they conveniently had on here, just press down, and it sits right on top of that bracket. You might also want to throw on both the terminal nut and the bracket nuts some never cease to make sure they don't seize up when you're trying to take it off again. So now with this one, gotta make sure I get that nut here in place while I'm also getting the negative terminal on. So now I'm gonna cinch this down a little bit, make sure it starts, and then we're pretty much all good. Okay, let's test this battery. Red to positive, black to negative. 12.68 volts. 12.7, that's what it should be at. Good. Alright, well, that concludes this next Full Throttle Thursday. Interesting thing, never had to change a car battery before, but these are designed to be 3-year batteries now, so they don't exactly put the same quality stuff in anymore. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. It was a little bit of a learning experience. I got to learn about some different types of car batteries, different styles of them, the flooded, AGM, different brands. It was a fun experience. Thank you for joining. If you want to see more car videos, definitely hit that little subscribe button below and then the bell icon right next to that so you get notified whenever I upload a video or I do go live sometimes. Alright, this is meteorologist Andrew Pinero. Again, thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video.